Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to Granny B's house. Are you having a good day? Oh, I hope so. Granny B's having a pretty good day. And are you remembering to be kind to those people around you? You know, when you do maybe a little act of kindness for one person, maybe they'll pass it on and do an act of kindness of their very own. And just think how much this world would be improved if everybody was doing little acts of kindness. You know, I have a book to read today. It's called One Good Deed, and it is just a true illustration of what happens when somebody does a good deed. So let's just read it now. One Good Deed by Terry Fields is illustrated by Deborah Melman. And I'm going to just move out of the way because this is a wonderful story. Even on sunny days, Lancaster Street seemed dark and gloomy. Neighbors did not smile at each other or talk to each other or help each other. But one day, as Jake climbed his mulberry tree to pick its ripe fruit, he saw old Mrs. Thompson outside her house next door. Suddenly, he had a thought he'd never thought before. I bet she's sad she can't climb trees. I could take her some of these delicious mulberries. When Jake arrived, Mrs. Thompson was surprised. She was delighted. She had enough fruit to make 2 mulberry pies. Then she had a thought she'd never thought before. I loved getting these mulberries. I bet Mr. Riley next door would like one of my pies. When Mrs. Thompson arrived, Mr. Riley was surprised. Mr. Riley was delighted. As he ate the delicious pie, he looked out the window and watched the kids next door playing ball. Suddenly, he saw their ball land on the roof of his garage. Then, he had a thought he'd never thought before. I bet I could help them. I could take my ladder out and get their ball. When Mr. Riley handed them back their ball, Jeffrey and Joshua were surprised. They were delighted. As they tossed it back and forth, they saw Mr. Lee hobbling on crutches to his front door. Then they had a thought they'd never thought before. Mr. Lee can't rake the leaves in his yard, but we could. When the boys arrived with their rakes, Mr. Lee was surprised. Mr. Lee was delighted. Soon they were joined by Sammy Cohen from next door carrying a rake. My computer is broken, so I can't finish my homework. I'll help you rake. Then Mr. Lee had a thought he'd never thought before. I'm good at computers. Maybe I could fix Sammy's computer. When Mr. Lee arrived, the Cohens were surprised. The Cohens were delighted, and before you knew it, the computer was up and running again. When Mrs. Cohen sat down to check her email, she looked out the window and saw Ashley from next door riding her rusty old bike. Then she had a thought she'd never thought before. We have a practically new bike that Sammy has outgrown. It would be perfect for Ashley. When Mrs. Cohen arrived with the new bike, Ashley was surprised. Ashley was delighted. She rode her new bike around the neighborhood, waving and smiling and calling hello to all her neighbors. The neighbors were surprised. The neighbors were delighted. Everyone waved and smiled back. Soon, even on gray days, Lancaster Street seemed warm and sunny. How had that happened? No one knew. Not even Jake realized that it had all begun with a basket of mulberries and one mitzvah, one good deed. Oh my goodness, the berries led to the pie, led to the basketball and the raking and the computer and the bicycle. Do you see how that happened? One little boy did one good deed and it just snowballed. One person did something good for somebody and they did something good for somebody, and just think how your little acts of kindness can make a difference in this world. So let's be aware. Let's pay attention to when our act of kindness can make a big difference for somebody else. Well, you know, Granny B loves you. And Granny B wants you to come back and see me again real soon so I can read you another story. Okay? Bye-bye.